All it takes is a beautiful fake smile to hide an injured soul. He burst onto the stages and film sets like a relentless, raging tornado, sucking everyone who happened to be nearby into his vortex. He couldn't help but make people laugh and couldn't live without being funny. Humor became a hope and an abyss for him. Apparently, this was his main life tragedy. Why did such a bright and outstanding personality voluntarily decide to pass away? Today on the Biographer Express channel, we will try to understand how Robin Williams' last days were shaping up and what exactly led to such a shocking decision. Alcohol, psychotropic substances, depression, or a creative crisis. Or maybe there was a reason that no one even guessed about. On August 11, 2014, most of the world's tabloids were already spreading tragic and shocking news. On this very day, U.S. President Barack Obama issued an official statement full of genuine admiration for this bright man whose talent did not leave anyone indifferent. Robin Williams was an airman, a doctor, a genie, a nanny, a president, a professor, a bangarang Peter Pan, and everything in between. But he was one of a kind. He arrived in our lives as an alien, but he ended up touching every element of the human spirit. He made us laugh. He made us cry. He gave his immeasurable talent freely and generously to those who needed it most, from our troops stationed abroad to the marginalized on our own streets. Robin Williams was found dead that day at his home in Tiburon's Paradise Cay, California. The time of his death was declared at 12:02 p.m. Even then, before this information was officially confirmed, some media outlets, mostly the yellow press, were already churning out loud headlines about the causes of death, while more respectful newspapers were limited to a neutral phrase, "was found dead." It was only after the official autopsy that absolutely all the media raced to talk about the true reason Robin Williams passed away of his own free will as a result of asphyxia and hanging. There were personal belongings taken out of his pockets, an iPad and several antidepressants prescribed by a doctor on the chair next to him. Black sneakers and a pair of black socks were also near the chair. It was so ordinary, usual, as if he was just undressing, about to take a shower or change clothes. There had been no signs of trouble the night before. Robin called his wife Susan to say that he'd stopped by the bookstore to buy magazines for her, and when he returned, he looked and behaved completely normally. He even took his iPad, and Susan was delighted because before that he hadn't read or watched TV for 6 months. It should have been a good sign that Robin finally had some interest in this, but from the moment he left the room that day, she no longer saw him alive. The couple had been sleeping separately lately due to Robin's insomnia, and when Susan left on business in the morning, she decided he was still asleep and did not look into his room so as not to disturb him. What made the successful, beloved actor and comedian, winner of the Academy Award, several Golden Globe and Grammy Awards, and dozens of other prestigious awards and nominations, a loving father of 3 children, shorten his life at the age of 63? Let's figure it out. Robin McLaurin Williams was born in 1951 in Chicago. His dad, Robert Fitzgerald Williams, held a high position at Ford Motor Company, and because of this, the family had to move frequently. They lived in Illinois, Michigan, and later in California. When you change schools often, it's hard to make real friends. In addition, Robin suffered from dyslexia as a child. As he himself recalled later, "I was the only child on my block on Halloween to go trick or trout." So the boy grew up alone. Actually, he was raised by a maid because his father and mother worked a lot. His mother, Laurie McLaurin, a former model, was not only a bright beauty, but also had an extraordinary sense of humor.
Oh my, you're gonna do this! Oh no!
You know, we embarrass your dad. I did for years.
Yeah, that and that.
And I
making this noise at dinner?
Yeah.
He didn't like that
No.
either, no.
Robin adored his mother and always tried to make her laugh in order to somehow attract her attention, win more of her affection. Most likely, he did it well because even then, there was a conviction in his subconscious that bright jokes could add weight and value to a guy in the eyes of others. He was quiet and shy and only played someone else or made good jokes. Robin turned into another person.
I was an only child. It wasn't. I mean, you learn to play with yourself, pardon the pun. But you adapt, your imagination, you find a way of getting through it. It wasn't awful, no. I had actually a kind of a wonderful time because of that. And then later on, I learned that it was very interesting and how it formed who and what I am.
You created a lot of characters, did you?
Yeah, little things that didn't really surface till college, where all of a sudden I realized I had this mimicry, this ability to, because I think I'd been kind of listening and absorbing all that stuff, and then in college I had a chance to release it.
At Deer Path Junior High School, he joined the high school drama department. Robin not only performed on stage, but also parodied his classmates all the time, which, if it did not make him less lonely, definitely added a little popularity. Not that he was an outsider. The guy studied well, was an athlete, and the success of his comedy impromptu performances and the fact that they were paying more attention to him further strengthened his belief that his path was acting. After graduating from high school, classmates voted for him in 2 categories: most likely not to succeed and funniest. There's a lot to draw conclusions from, isn't there? And he did. Even after enrolling in a prestigious college for political science, Robin Williams did not last long there, and subsequently transferring to another college, chose acting as his specialty. Then there was the famous New York acting Juilliard School. Even then, he literally lit up any scene with himself. According to his closest friend since then, actor Christopher Reeve, he talked a mile a minute. I'd never seen so much energy contained in one person. He was like an untied balloon that had been inflated and immediately released. I watched in awe as he virtually caroomed off the walls of the classrooms and hallways. To say that he was on would be a major understatement. Few talented actors are as talented in comedy. Few talented comedians can be talented actors at the same time. Robin Williams was a talented actor and a talented comedian. He chose this path for himself, to be a comedian first of all, and perhaps it was this choice that made him truly unhappy at the end of his life. So when Robin moved to San Francisco, he finally chose comedy for himself. Everyone who knew Robin Williams as a comedian and actor unanimously speaks of his irrepressibility, exuberant energy, which, like a volcanic geyser, was always looking for a way out. If in life he could be quiet, thoughtful, melancholic, then when it came to creativity and comedy, he literally exploded. It was constant movement, improvisation, impromptu. And it was always not enough for him. He was insatiable to the point of laughter, to the reaction of people to what he was doing. When he soon moved to Los Angeles, then he was only doing stand-up there. Already at that time, in the early 70s, psychotropic substances began to appear in his life, but it still did not become a problem for him. Addiction to illegal substances covered him along with success when in 1977, a producer of the then popular television sitcom Happy Days saw his performance and invited him to play an episode in his sitcom. Robin appeared in one of the episodes of the show My Favorite Orkin in the role of the eccentric alien Mork. Thanks to Williams' fiery temperament and humor, this episode raised the rating of the program so much that the producers decided to create a whole separate show with this character called Mork and Mindy, with Robin Williams in one of the main roles. It was a bullseye hit. The show became mega popular all over America, and Robin, as they say, literally overnight, turned from a little-known stand-up comedian into a sitcom superstar.
Mama, I'm on TV!
Robin, who was modest and shy by his innate nature, was literally showered with fame, money, fans, and groupies thanks to his brilliant talent. The first episode of Mork and Mindy was released in September 1978, a couple of months after Williams married his first wife, Valerie Velarde. The couple was for free love, and Robin left with another mistress every evening, after playing an episode in a sitcom in front of a live audience, and after that, after working several stand-ups in a row in different clubs. All this, except for the irrepressible, natural, insane creative energy of Williams, needed some other supporting factors, and they became white powder and alcohol. According to one of his friends, comedian Alan Steven, Robin then could not even go on stage without refueling with psychotropic substances. Recalling these times, he quoted one of the conversations with Williams before the next show. Robin said, "Know anyone with blow? I have to go on, and I can't go on without any blow." At that time, almost everyone in the Los Angeles showbiz was on banned substances. It was kind of a trend. Someone took a little, someone took more, and something heavier, but this did not surprise anyone. And Williams really got hooked very tightly on prohibited substances. According to another friend, comedian Mike Bender, one night we went to a place called Flipper's Discotheque, and I had like a gram of coke. Williams had said, "Ooh, let me take that, and do you mind if I hit that in the bathroom?" He came back and it was empty. I was like, whoa. It was like 8:15 p.m. at night. I was like, "Robin, you did the whole gram?" He was like, "It was an accident, I'm sorry." With drugs, he was a monster. After becoming a star, Robin Williams joined the elite circle and hung out with such famous stars as Robert De Niro, John Belushi, Andy Warhol, and others. By the way, you can subscribe to our channel and click on the bell to learn more about the lives of other celebrities. For Williams, every evening was a relentless series of parties that turned into night and lasted until morning.
You've had a week to do this. You look at me so pitiful.
I feel like shit that much. I'm looking at you. I'm not really looking at you. I'm looking in the back of my mind going, there's got to be another line. Someone back there, send another line forward.
And after such nights, exhausted and still not fully adequate, Robin literally crawled to the set of the sitcom. But even in this state, he somehow managed to boost the ratings of the show. The director of the show, Mork and Mindy, Howard Storm, recalled this period of Williams' filming, saying that the actor could not sleep at all the whole night, drinking, dating women, and having sexual relations with everybody in town. Mork and Mindy lasted until May 1982, then the show was suddenly closed and Robin was overcome with despair. What will happen next? Stand-up shows have always helped him cope with short-term periods of depression, although they themselves often led him to it. Many comedians have encountered this in their work. Robin was no exception, and in his case, these mood swings and states were further exacerbated by the abuse of stimulant substances and alcohol. How does it work? According to a study conducted by Oxford University scientists, it was found that comedians, as a rule, tend to have a so-called conflicted profile, which is characterized by a combination of introverted, depressive traits on the one hand, and on the other, their complete opposite, extroverted, impulsive, manic traits. Because of this, comedians tend to feel misunderstood, angry, anxious, and depressed. 523 comedians from the UK, USA, and Australia participated in this rather detailed study. But despite these negative side effects of the process, Robin caught a real buzz from stand-up from its spontaneity, the feeling of a constant challenge.
We have autopilot. I mean, there's something in your way. There'll be certain things that you know you can do that will work, but for me, I love to take the chances and improvise. That's when that's the greatest high in the world, when you're trying new stuff, or getting suggestions and playing and doing new things. That's my favorite. That's the unknown, the special land.
When the comedy Good Morning Vietnam was released on movie screens in 1987, his acting career began to play with bright colors again. The film was a huge success, and Robin received the well-deserved status of a movie star. The nominations for the prestigious awards went one after another. It was in the late 80s and 90s that he received great commercial success because many of his pictures from this period grossed more than $100 million at the box office. In particular, the fantasy Hook and the animated musical Aladdin. What do you think the actor lacked for complete happiness? He had a favorite career, success, and a beloved wife in his life. But huge success and popularity could also be pressure factors, especially when the psyche is already weakened by the use of substances, the effects of which either dull the senses or incline to emotional instability. All those years behind his fame and success was the same explosive mixture: insane talent plus substances plus alcohol. And this continued until 1992. But there was also something that, unnoticed by everyone else, had been haunting Robin for years. Fear. What exactly was he afraid of? Everything, it's just a general all-around, ugh. It's fearfulness and anxiety. It was an all-encompassing feeling of fear that lived with him constantly, and only complete immersion in work, loud applause and laughter from the audience, or substances with alcohol were the means by which he muffled this feeling in himself. But long-term and regular substance abuse still left an incorrigible mark on the actor's health. According to scientists, such substances impair brain function, overly stimulate or disrupt normal communication between neurons. In addition, they can alter important areas of the brain necessary for maintaining vital functions, responsible for human motivation, as well as those involved in the formation of habits and routine actions. Also, according to statistics from a study published in 2009, substance use disorders are among the most common mental disorders found in voluntary departures from life. The epic of abuse for Robin Williams ended unexpectedly and abruptly with the death of his friend, comedian John Belushi, brother of the famous actor Jim Belushi, in March 1992 from an overdose. Just before this terrible event, on that very day, Robin hung out with him at John's bungalow at the Chateau Marmont Hotel, Los Angeles. Williams was then the main witness in the case of Belushi's death, which, in addition to the shock of his friend's death, also cleared his brain quite well. Besides, Valerie was just expecting a baby. The Belushi tragedy was frightening. His death scared a whole group of show business people. It caused a big exodus from drugs, and for me, there was the baby coming. I knew I couldn't be a father and live that sort of life. His first child, son Zachary "Zach" Pym, was born in 1983. From then until 2005, Robin managed to maintain sobriety.
I remember stopping it on my own because I was about to have a son, and I didn't want to be coked up going, "Hey, Dad loves you. Here's a little switch. I'm going to throw up on you." You don't want to be like that. And I had to kind of go, but I did it alone, so that was why it was, 20 years without any help.
But in 2005, on the set of the movie The Big White, somewhere on the border between Alaska and British Columbia, Robin still broke down and plunged again at that time into the alcoholic abyss. The atmosphere of this place contributed to this, and the inner demons woke up again, breaking his resistance, which lasted for almost 20 years. Not that there was anything special about this place. One can assume that it was just that very necessary little push, and he couldn't help himself. Why was he trying to forget himself in alcohol? Again, because of fear. I was in a small town where it's not the edge of the world, but you can see it from there, and then I thought, drinking. I just thought, hey, maybe drinking will help. Because I felt alone and afraid. It was that thing of working so much and going, fuck, maybe that'll help. And it was the worst thing in the world. The binge lasted 3 years. It was because of this that their marriage with his second wife, Marcia Garces, broke up, with whom they lived together for 19 years and gave birth to 2 children, daughter Zelda and son Cody. Although it was the family who organized the intervention and helped Robin to stop drinking, placing him in a rehabilitation center. These 3 years have left an irreparable mark on the relationship. Williams drank as enchantingly as he choked, absolutely without breaks. He appeared drunk at presentations, interviews, and right in front of paparazzi, as in that famous case during the Cannes Film Festival in 2006, when he knocked Ivana Trump down on the dance floor during the AIDS charity dinner. He went on drunken sprees in Los Angeles bars, where he got drunk until he lost consciousness, and once even tried to court a waitress, which, according to eyewitnesses, pretty angered Marcia, who was still enduring it all. Everyone knew about it. They wrote about it, and later he himself admitted that even though his wife forgave him, this was the reason for the divorce. He was left alone, having lost the woman he loved and the children he adored. I was shameful, and you do stuff that causes disgust, and that's hard to recover from. You can say, "I forgive you," and all that stuff, but it's not the same as recovering from it. It's not coming back. When, at the end of 2010, The Guardian correspondent Decca Aikenhead took an exclusive interview with Robin Williams, the man she saw in front of her was no longer quite like the Williams everyone knew. He still attended AA, or Alcoholics Anonymous, support groups, was in therapy, and maybe that's what influenced his usual temperament. But most likely, this was already the beginning of those changes in his personality that subsequently led to the tragedy. His bearing is intensely zen and almost mournful, and when he's not putting on voices, he speaks in a low, tremulous baritone, as if on the verge of tears. That would work very well if he were delivering a funeral eulogy. He seems gentle and kind, even tender, but the overwhelming impression is one of sadness. Over time, Robin's already vulnerable and sensitive psyche really began to malfunction. In the documentary about Robin Williams' Come Inside My Mind, released in 2018, his friends and family recalled that he kept a lot to himself, but also reacted very strongly to everything. The emotions suppressed inside could also contribute to certain shifts in the direction of nervous disorders over time. The heart surgery he underwent in 2009 did not improve the situation either. During the operation, his heart valve was replaced, and although Williams later joked a lot about this topic, a very close encounter with the possibility of his own death became a great stress, adding another one to his long-standing fears.
And did they replace the valve?
They did. I had choices. You can go with a pig valve, which is great because then you can find truffles. A mechanical valve, which would be great, like an apple eye heart. That'd be lovely. And I went with a bovine valve, which is a cow valve, which is wonderful because now I can crap standing up.
Somewhere back then, the actor began to suffer even more from depression and anxiety. In his work, there were several films in one way or another related to the topic of mental health. For example, The Fisher King and Awakenings in the 90s. At that time, he researched this topic very deeply, as well as the topic of asphyxia during the filming of the film World's Greatest Dad in 2009. Therefore, he had a fairly clear idea of what mental disorders can lead to. In addition, the situation in his career did not add optimism to the actor at all. Most of the pictures in which he has been involved in recent years were qualitatively very, very far from those that glorified him in his time as an actor and for which he received awards. Why was he doing this? It seemed that Williams, just like at the beginning of his career, tried to fill every free minute with some kind of activity, because when he failed to make people laugh, Robin felt vulnerable. Life lost its meaning. According to his makeup artist, Sherry Minns, it's like he didn't worry about anything when he worked all the time. He operated on working. That was the true love of his life. Above his children, above everything. If he wasn't working, he was a shell of himself, and when he worked, it was like a light bulb was turned on. And certain money problems made him take on any job, moving from one low-budget picture to another. 2 divorces have eaten up a considerable amount of his earnings. In addition, his marriage in 2011 with his third wife, graphic designer Susan Schneider, made him keep the brand and maintain the standard of living that belonged to his stellar status. In 2012, Williams even had to put his beloved ranch up for sale. There are bills to pay. My life has downsized in a good way. I'm selling the ranch up in Napa. I just can't afford it anymore. A year before his death in 2013, Robin's luck finally seemed to smile again. He was invited to star in his first regular role since Mork and Mindy on the comedy TV show The Crazy Ones. He was really happy because the show was supposed to be pretty good, and the script gave Williams the green light and space for his illustrious improvisations. And what is equally important, regular filming on TV gave a source of constant profit and constant employment. The idea of having a steady job is appealing. I have 2 choices. Go on the road doing stand-up or do small independent movies working almost for scale. The movies are good, but a lot of times they don't even have distribution. It's a regular job. Day to day, you go to the plant, you put your punch card in, you get out. That's a good job. It was a chance to become himself again, which unfortunately he could not take advantage of because of the irreversible changes that were already happening to his personality at that time due to his state of health. Even though close friends who watched the show, talking about this role, said that he lost his spark. It was at this time that Robin began to have memory problems. He began to forget his texts during filming. At the same time, the actor began to have digestive disorders, problems with urination, insomnia, loss of sense of smell, and heartburn. A slight tremor appeared in his left hand, which he hid by keeping his hand in his pocket, as the creator of the show The Crazy Ones, David E. Kelley, recalled. Very soon, the ratings of the show began to drop, and the producers realized that the bet on the former explosive Robin Williams did not work, because his magic disappeared in The Crazy Ones. In April 2014, 6 months before the actor's death, the show was closed, and Williams lost the opportunity he was holding on to in the hope of returning to his former lifestyle. His makeup artist Sherry Minns recalled advising him to take up stand-up again to try to regain that feeling of stage adrenaline that always kept him afloat. Robin broke down in tears. He just cried and said, "I can't, Sherry." I said, "What do you mean you can't?" He said, "I don't know how anymore. I don't know how to be funny." And it was just gut-wrenching to hear him admit that, rather than lie to me and say something else. I think that's how troubled he was about all of it. A few months later, Robin was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, which seemed to clarify all the physiological symptoms he had at that time. According to his wife, Robin's life turned into an endless parade of symptoms that appeared not at the same time, but one after another, and it remained only to guess what else might be next. She even began to think that her husband was a hypochondriac. The couple spent a lot of time and effort trying to find the reasons for what was really going on with Robin, but there were still no answers. Robin wanted to keep this information a secret. Only ones closest to him knew, including his friend Billy Crystal, who later recalled,
"When we left each other, he started to cry. And I said, 'What's the matter?' He goes, 'Oh, I'm just so happy seeing you.' And then he told me that he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's. And when he told me, I never heard Robin be afraid, except for that moment.
When Robin Williams starred in the third part of the Night of the Museum franchise in 2014, things were already going badly. The symptoms that began to manifest themselves during the filming of The Crazy Ones only worsened, and Sean Levy, the director of the franchise, recalled the words of Williams himself, with which he characterized his condition. "I'm not me anymore." Levy expressed his impressions of the conversation with Robin on set as follows. His brain was not firing at the same speed. The joy wasn't there. According to his wife Susan, at that time the actor was already taking a bunch of different antipsychotic medications, but there was no noticeable result and he was getting worse. Robin was losing his mind and he was aware of it. He was angry because by now he was so mad at himself for what his body was doing, for what his mind was doing. Williams began to show paranoia. He could not sleep at night, and his wife and close associates limited his communication with the outside world as much as possible, so as not to expose his condition to the public. In June 2014, Robin checked into the Dan Anderson Renewal Center in Center City, Minnesota, an addiction treatment facility similar to the one he was in rehab in 2006. There was a version for the press that the actor simply decided to take the opportunity to take a short break to once again confirm his commitment to sobriety and support himself in this choice. But in fact, this stay in rehab was just an unsuccessful attempt for Robin and Susan to find a solution to a problem that actually had no solution. The only thing it gave to them was that Robin was in a controlled space 24/7, where he could be constantly looked after, where he could practice meditation, yoga, which he hoped could improve his chances of fighting the disease. At the same time, both Williams' friends and children considered this a mistake because, in fact, he had no reason to stay in this clinic because the problem was not alcohol or illegal substances, but that he suffered from an unrelated physical disorder. What was worst of all about Robin's relentlessly progressive health changes was that he had forever lost the ability to extract for himself that most important stimulant that had kept him afloat all his life: the love and support of the public. As Billy Crystal mentioned,
he needed that little extra hug he can only get from strangers. It's a very powerful thing for a lot of comedians. That laugh is a drug. That acceptance, that thrill is really hard to replace with anything else.
These were the last months of his life. Do you think his condition, which was constantly deteriorating, was decisive in what happened? Write your opinion in the comments. On Monday, August 11th, 2014, Robin Williams was found dead at his home in Paradise Cay, California. The official reason was recognized as voluntary departure from life. His death had stirred up a whole wave of rumors, speculation, and even accusations. Many media outlets spread these rumors, turning heaps of dirt on the actor to their audiences in pursuit of high-profile headlines. Some, like Shep Smith of Fox News, called Robin a coward for this act. They wrote that he was high when he did it, or that he got drunk to the point of insanity. Although at the time of Robin Williams' death, he had been sober from alcohol for 8 years and had not used psychotropic substances for many decades. On the one hand, there were people like Smith, who, by the way, later publicly apologized. And on the other hand, those who categorically stated, allegedly defending themselves, that one should not blame a man who had a mental disorder. But in fact, despite the fact that Robin had already been diagnosed with depression at that time, he was fighting and was not going to give up without a fight. This is also indicated by the fact that, according to his wife and other people close to the actor, he never even mentioned the possibility of killing himself. On the other hand, the history of his iPad browser indicates only the search for information about treatment methods and possible ways to solve his health issues. Even the daily pills that he was supposed to take, Robin put in his pill dispenser for a few days in advance. For all the persistent claims that depression alone killed Williams, his wife always claimed only one thing. It was not depression that killed Robin. Depression was one of, let's call it, 50 symptoms, and it was a small one. Subsequently, when an autopsy was performed, it was found that Robin Williams did not suffer from misdiagnosed Parkinson's, but from Lewy body dementia, the most aggressive form of dementia, which in fact was the factor that significantly worsened the state of depression. In addition, this insidious and debilitating brain disease, which also includes symptoms of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's diseases, not only destroys the brain but also disrupts sleep, affects behavior, movement, and human control over one's own body. According to Dr. Miller, Director of Memory and Aging at the University of California, Lewy body dementia is a disease that really kills. It is an aggressive, progressing rapidly disease, and considering that Robin Williams was posthumously diagnosed with one of the most devastating forms of this disease, it was already a miracle that Robin could walk or move at all, and that he managed to hold out for so long. Robin really didn't give up, trying to figure out his illness, and, together with his wife, planned an examination at the neurocognitive testing facility. But at the same time, it also imposed additional stress on Robin's exhausted psyche and definitely did not ease the paranoia he already had at that time, and periods of clear intention were replaced by periods of fear. I think he didn't want to go. I think he thought, I'm going to get locked up and never come out. Now, with all these facts from his biography in front of us, can we unequivocally answer the question of what exactly happened to the great comedian? Is it possible, after all, that it was the disease that killed him, even though he, to the best of his ability, fought to the last? Unfortunately, Robin Williams is not the only one in the galaxy of star actors whose lives ended too early. Marilyn Monroe, Heath Ledger, and many more. Click on the video that appears on your screen to find out details and theories about the death of other famous stars. And don't forget to like this video. It was Biographer Express. Thank you for being with us, and see you soon.